When we think of tourism, we imagine vibrant cities, packed beaches, and bustling airports. But behind the glossy brochures lies a hidden reality. Across the world, once thriving resorts now sit in silence, their pools dry and windows shattered. Abandoned airports and empty hotels stand as haunting reminders of overdevelopment, environmental damage, and economic collapse. This is the dark side of tourism, a world where dreams turn to dust and paradise fades into ghost towns. Today, we will talk about abandoned airports, empty resorts, the dark side of tourism. So before we start, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. The rise and fall of tourism infrastructure. In the race to capture the tourist dollar, governments and private investors often embark on ambitious projects. New airports are built in remote corners of the world, resorts spring up on isolated islands, and entire cities are reshaped to cater to visitor needs. These developments frequently occur with limited long-term planning or understanding of sustainable tourism dynamics. During the early phases, the influx of tourists creates jobs, boosts local economies, and provides a sense of progress. But when trends shift or crises emerge, the very same infrastructure can become a haunting relic of misplaced ambitions. Take the example of Castellón Costa d'Azúcar Airport in Spain. Inaugurated in 2011, this state-of-the-art airport was built at a cost of over $150 million. Yet for years after its opening, it failed to receive a single commercial flight. Designed to handle millions of passengers, it stood as a ghostly monument to political and economic misjudgment. Today, it serves limited traffic, but its early years of emptiness underscore the risk of building without real demand. Similar fates have met airports across Asia, the Caribbean, and parts of Africa, where optimism overrode practical feasibility. Resorts reclaimed by nature. Luxury resorts designed to offer exclusive getaways can become eerie ruins once the flow of guests ceases. Often located in fragile environments or on secluded coasts, these properties are highly dependent on continuous tourism traffic. Political unrest, natural disasters, changing traveler preferences, or pandemics can swiftly alter the fortunes of such resorts. Without steady income, maintenance halts, and the once glamorous buildings begin to decay. Pools collect stagnant water, wildlife reclaims manicured gardens, and silence replaces laughter. One of the most striking examples is the once thriving Varosha Beach Resort in Famagusta, Cyprus. A magnet for celebrities, in the 1970s, the area was suddenly abandoned following military conflict and has remained closed off and decaying ever since. Despite being frozen in time, its hollow buildings and empty hotel lobbies echo with the stories of past tourists. More recently, the global pandemic forced many resorts in Southeast Asia and Latin America to shut down indefinitely. Islands that once relied almost entirely on foreign visitors found themselves devoid of both people and purpose. Environmental degradation and displacement. Another disturbing aspect of abandoned tourism infrastructure is the lasting environmental damage. Constructing large-scale facilities such as airports and resorts often involves clearing natural habitats, displacing local populations, and straining water and energy resources. When these projects are subsequently deserted, they leave behind scars that take generations to heal. Concrete skeletons erode soil, abandoned sewage systems pollute water sources, and invasive species sometimes thrive in places once carefully managed. In places like Bali, Indonesia, or Go India, mass tourism led to overbuilding and severe stress on ecosystems. When hotels or clubs shut down, the environmental harm remains unaddressed. Local communities that once depended on fishing or farming find themselves stuck with unusable land and depleted resources. For them, the departure of tourism does not signal peace but prolonged suffering. Economic collapse and unfulfilled promises. The abandonment of airports and resorts has devastating ripple effects on local economies. Jobs vanish overnight, small businesses reliant on tourist spending go bankrupt, and tax revenues disappear. This often leads to urban decay, increased poverty, and in some cases mass migration. People move away in search of work, leaving behind ghost towns and half-built complexes. In the Dominican Republic, several large-scale resort developments were halted mid-construction after foreign investors pulled out due to economic downturns. What was left behind were concrete shells of buildings, rusting cranes, and confused communities that had expected a boom. For them, tourism became a false promise, one that left them more vulnerable than before. Similarly, in Greece, several airports and resorts that flourished during the pre-austerity era were shut down or privatized post-crisis. Locals who had worked in tourism all their lives were forced into unemployment or lower-paying jobs. The sense of betrayal runs deep, especially when locals realize the profits had long gone to foreign investors while the risks were left behind. Cultural erosion and community displacement. Tourism, when poorly managed, can also displace communities from their traditional lands and dilute cultural heritage. The construction of mega-resorts often requires resettlement of indigenous populations or the commercialization of sacred spaces. When these projects are later abandoned, the community suffers not only economic loss, but also cultural and psychological harm. In Thailand, the Karen people were moved from their ancestral lands to make way for resort development. Promised compensation and job opportunities, few saw any long-term benefit. When the resort closed down following political protests, the land was left deforested and the community without recourse. The cultural erosion and identity crisis that followed was an invisible yet profound cost. Tourism bubbles and overdependence. One of the most troubling lessons from abandoned tourism sites is the danger of overdependence on tourism as a sole economic driver. When entire towns or islands cater exclusively to travelers, any disruption can lead to collapse. Natural disasters, disease outbreaks, or even social media trends can shift tourist flows in unpredictable ways. Communities that have not diversified their economies are left vulnerable. The Maldives, a nation heavily reliant on luxury tourism, faced enormous setbacks during the pandemic with over 70% of its GDP affected. While recovery efforts are underway, the experience has raised questions about the wisdom of putting all economic eggs in the tourism basket. Smaller islands in the Caribbean and Pacific are also rethinking their futures as abandoned hotels dot their shorelines. Ghosts of mega events. Large sporting or cultural events often leave behind abandoned infrastructure. The Olympics and World Expos, for instance, drive host cities to build massive temporary facilities. Once the events conclude, many of these structures are left to rot. The 2004 Athens Olympics saw billions spent on stadiums and athlete villages that now lie in decay. These sites symbolize short-sighted planning and the fleeting nature of tourist-driven events. Brazil, which hosted both the FIFA World Cup and Olympics within a span of 2 years, has seen similar outcomes. Stadiums built in remote cities that lacked local teams now stand empty. The promised tourism boom never materialized to the expected level, and local taxpayers continue to bear the burden. Lessons in sustainable tourism. Amidst the haunting images of abandoned airports and decaying resorts, there is a growing awareness of the need for sustainable tourism. This involves building infrastructure that serves locals as much as tourists, ensuring environmental protection and fostering cultural respect. Instead of massive resorts, smaller eco-friendly lodges that employ locals are being favored. Governments and investors are urged to consider long-term plans and exit strategies before launching tourism projects. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please give it the thumbs up. Leave a comment and click the button to subscribe.